Hello everybody, my name is Emma, this is Emma Rose and Books, and in today's video I want to tell you about all the books I read in June. I do apologise if you can hear a little bit of classical music. Two of my kids are doing ballet downstairs, which gives me a tiny bit of time to film. This is a really busy time of year for us, and so everything's done kind of in stolen moments here and there. I'm also sweltering because I've had to close the window so that the doors aren't banging and stuff. And with my hair, by the way, we're just accepting the fact that this is how my hair looks, with my hair down. So hot. Right. Anyway, I read 5 books in June. You can follow me on Goodreads if you want to see what I'm reading there. You can also see on Instagram I post as well, little book reviews, so you can follow me on there. All my links are obviously below. And so the first book I read in June was Strange Fits of Passion by Anita. Is it Shreve? I think it's Shreve. This is my second book I've read by her, and it's an odd one because I wouldn't have picked up Anita Shreve's books, I don't think, like if I saw them in a shop. My mother-in-law has a couple of them and she's been lending them to me, and I really like what I've read so far. So this one is about a woman who is clearly a runaway, and as it goes through the book it reveals more and more of what she's running away from. And she goes to a tiny fishing village in America, and she kind of gets to know the locals, becomes part of the community to an extent, and it's told partially from her point of view, where she's talking about what she does on a daily basis and all that kind of stuff, and then there's also statements from other members of the community, and it builds up this thrillerish story. And I really enjoyed this. For a start, it's quite a slow thriller, which if I'm gonna read a thriller, that's what I like. I want a lot of suspense, I want lots of details about the minutiae of life, like I want it to build up because it's just kind of atmospheric. That's what I like. Also, the characterisation in this was fantastic. I absolutely loved all the different characters. Although certain aspects of it you could see coming, it didn't matter that you could see it coming. I like that too. It also had a really good ending, I thought, because elements of it were predictable but other elements weren't, and it cast a lot of doubt on a lot of things that happened that was really clever. This had a really lovely maritime nautical feel to it, which also is right up my street. It's very kind of salty, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, as I say, a surprising one for me. I don't know why it is that I'm not naturally drawn to Anita Shreve's books. However, the 2 I've read I've really enjoyed. So I think I might read some more. I liked that. So the next book that I read in June, I think I'm doing these in order, is The Girl Who Climbed Everest by Benita Norris. So this is a memoir. It's about, well, obviously, a girl who climbed Everest. She was the youngest person to have climbed Everest for a little while. She was then overtaken. And it goes through a little bit of her childhood and what kind of led her to pursue, basically to like her personality, to explain the kind of person that she is. It then talks about the fact that she went to this talk by a couple of Everest climbers, mountaineers, summiters, when she was at university, and just felt incredibly inspired and decided that's what I want to do in my life. I want to climb Everest. And then about how she trained for it and all of that. I really liked this book. It's not that well written, really. There are parts of it where I felt like I wasn't really following what she was saying, and then it'd then explain it afterwards, if that makes sense. There was just the odd bit where I'd have to reread a paragraph. For the most part, it's fine. Like, that's me being super critical, but it's not like some amazing literary piece. She's a mountaineer. It's written by her. It's, you know, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from it, in my opinion. I felt that it was very inspiring. It caused me a bit of a problem because I went for a run while I was reading this, and it's a lot of this centres on the idea of climbing Everest might seem like a lot, but it's just take another step. Like, just go and walk out of your tent, and then all you've got to do is take a step and then another step, and it's a lot of that idea of just, you know, you can do it, just keep going, you've just got to do the next thing. So I went on a run and I fell over and I was like, no, you've just got to keep, you can do this, you've just got to keep going, it's just another step, it's just another, Anyway, long story short, I ended up really damaging my knee because I ran on an already injured knee. So read with caution, don't get over-inspired. But yeah, it just kind of left me with that feeling of you can do anything, and I think that's such a great message. It's got pictures in it, and I mean, Everest looks incredible. You know, it's got pictures, it's got coloured plates in it, and it basically left me with the conclusion that I never want to climb Everest. It sounds absolutely hellish, but well done to her. So yeah, I did really enjoy this. If you like kind of travel-y, adventure-y kind of books, I think that this gives you a real sense of the feel of the Himalayas and the feel of being a mountain climber and what you have to do and how intense it is. And yeah, so despite the fact like not necessarily being the best written book in the world, it's really good. So I liked that one. The next book that I read this month was The Secret Garden. So this one is the exact copy that I've had since I was a kid. So it's old and manky and really needs replacing, actually. I'm thinking of getting like some really nice cloth bound classics, because a couple of my other classics are just really old paperbacks that have got a bit knackered. So I might treat myself at some point if I see a nice little set, a little series. So this one, for home learning, we read a chapter a day of a children's book, and what we've been doing is we've got like a stack of books that we've picked that the kids want to read, and we've been putting the names into a hat and then just pulling out and then reading that one next. So at the moment we're reading Little Women, but last month was The Secret Garden. We loved this. This was such a highlight. My kids adored it. They loved the story. They got so into it because it's just such a lovely, like, gentle book, because the drama centres around a garden and things flowering. Well, obviously also the children in the book, but it's just such a lovely story, you know. There doesn't have to be any like huge adventure and drama. It's just nice, and I like books like that. So if you haven't read it, The Secret Garden is about Mary Lennox, who becomes an orphan. So she's living in India. She becomes an orphan. She moves to Yorkshire. This came out in like 1911 or something like that, so that's the kind of time period. She moves into this mysterious house that her uncle owns, and hears about this locked up garden, and then she's desperate to find out about it, and then lots of mysteries unfold from there. The colonial India part of it was the one part of this that made me uncomfortable, because Mary Lennox, the central character, is quite scathing towards Indian people. And we did have some discussions about why some of those things are really inappropriate to say. I felt that, I know that with some classics, you know, it becomes an issue. For me, I think that the way that this book is written, whereby when Mary is like that, she's portrayed as this horrible girl. And so I think that when she's saying those things and acting those ways, it's being portrayed as this is not the way to behave. I think because of that, this is okay, and I think with time she doesn't feel the same and think the same. So the way I read it, I think that in context it's okay, but I'd be really interested in what other people think about that. Aside from that, and that's a very small part of this book, the actual story is lovely. My kids love the Robin in it. I love Ben Weatherstaff. I just get really emotional about Ben Weatherstaff's part. I don't know, but yeah, really nice. My kids adored it, and actually the house that Frances Hodgson Burnett lived in when she wrote this is not that far from where we live, so we're going to go on a school trip at some point to go and visit the house, because the kids were just so into it and they're desperate to know more. So now that kind of gardens and things are open, we're going to go and do that. The next book that I read this month was The Testaments. It doesn't have the dust jacket, this one. My sister-in-law lent me this, so I guess she took it off. But the, what do you call this? Lining? I don't know, is very nice, and that's similar to what's on the cover. So I read The Handmaid's Tale probably about 2 years ago. I've watched all of the series. I really like it. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. So this book happens after The Handmaid's Tale. and it centres on 3 characters, one of whom is Aunt Lydia from The Handmaid's Tale, and then 2 other characters. And I like that aspect of there being different points of view. I don't want to go too much into what the narrative is because I think I give too many spoilers, but yeah, if you've read The Handmaid's Tale, you have an idea of the kind of dystopia that this is set in, and the kind of thing that you're looking at. I was so disappointed in this book. I was desperate to read it because I just loved The Handmaid's Tale so much. I thought it was brilliant. But there were elements of it that I really, really loved. There were parts of it that had that real, like, atmospheric, horrible, but thought-provoking aspect that is what's great about The Handmaid's Tale. However, I felt that Aunt Lydia's bits are really, really good. The other 2 characters, there's one of the characters who, her narrative is, if you haven't seen the series, if you've only read the book, her narrative would be a complete mystery to you. And I don't think that should be the case, because if you haven't watched the series, then it should explain enough in here that you understand, but it doesn't. I think if you haven't seen the series, yeah, all of that, you'd be like, where is this coming from? The young characters in this book, the 2 other narratives, there were elements of their stories that were really captivatingly written, particularly the girl who lives in Gilead. I really liked some of her bits of explaining what it's like being a young girl growing up in Gilead. As time goes on, their storylines start to read like YA, which detracts from it a bit. And then I also felt that in this book, it ties up. And I don't think that a book that's related to Handmaid's Tale should tie up at all. It should be left open and shocking and horrible, not that there's actually any kind of end to any narrative that's in there, in my opinion. And I don't think there's the same uncertainty cast on it that the end of The Handmaid's Tale, you know, the epilogue of The Handmaid's Tale, puts everything into a weird kind of perspective that doesn't really happen in here. So I just think it's a good book. Like, don't get me wrong, obviously it's a good book, it's well written, it has a certain power to it. Is it as powerful as The Handmaid's Tale? Absolutely not. Is it as entertaining? In my opinion, no. I just don't think this stands out. I think it's a good book, but when you compare it, when you've read The Handmaid's Tale and that's why you're reading the Testaments, it just doesn't compare. It's not in the same league. I think Handmaid's Tale, incredible. This book, yeah, it's alright, you know, in my opinion. So yeah, for me, I didn't like it, and that was a shame. However, you know, don't take my word for it, it won the Booker, so, you know, who am I to say? But again, I'd be really interested what you thought on that one, because yeah, I just expected it to be sensational. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe I expected too much of it, but I was just left a bit blah about it. Then, this month, I read The Girl Savage. This is a middle grade fiction. The story of it is, so it's set in Zimbabwe initially, and there's a girl called Wilhelmina and a boy called Simon who are best friends. They are the children of people who work on this big estate. So then there's other characters like the guy who runs the estate, their families, other, you know, farmhands and stuff like that. Wilhelmina's the main character. She ends up having to move to England because I think she's of British heritage, maybe. I'm not sure. She's white, but I can't remember why it ends up being England specifically. Can't remember. Anyway, but she ends up moving to England, and then the half of the book is set there. So what I loved about this book is the sense of place. It makes Africa, or Zimbabwe, it's just beautiful. It's so well set. I think the characterization was good. I think that just, you know, when you just read a book and you feel like you're somewhere, like you get a sense of somewhere you've never been. The same as with the Everest book. I love that kind of book that will, you know, the wanderlust thing. So also the sense of England is pretty spot on, I would say. It's just grey and drizzly. And it shows kind of all this drama that happens in Wilhelmina's life. That's all really well done, really emotionally done. And her as a central character, I think she's unusual, she's just wild, and I love that about her. So in terms of reading a very different protagonist for you know, my kids' age, having this kind of wild and independent girl, I just love that about it. And I love the fact that you learn about a place as well. So yeah, in general, I really enjoyed this. My son has borrowed it and he is really enjoying it as well, so that's always quite a good sign, I think. So yeah, I liked it. It's got nice chapter headings as well. I thought this was a good story. You know, as an adult, I enjoyed it, and then you know, it's nice that my kids do too. So bit of a mixed bag as always. I feel like I always say that. I probably do. But yeah, 5 books this month. I am currently reading, it's way over there, a book called Cutting the Stone by Catherine Rundle? Did I make that up? I might have made that up. Actually, that doesn't look like what it says on the cover at all. Whatever, I'll put it on the thing. Maybe Catherine Rundle wrote something else. Did she write? Oh no, she wrote The Girl Savage. So I don't know what that is over there. Anyway, and I'm quite enjoying that as well. So I will be back next month with what I'm reading in July. In the meantime, I've got a few videos lined up for you. I've got some writing-y bits that I'm thinking of doing. Let me know in the comments what you've been reading. Have you read any of these? What did you think? Obviously, it's all just my opinion. And as I said, links are below and all that stuff. I hope you're all right. I'm going to be honest, I'm really having a day where I'm really over all of this. However, we went for a walk, so I feel a bit better, if a little hot. So, yeah. I hope you're all right. Let me know how you're doing. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and if you're not already subscribed, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. Take care, and I'll see you all for another video very soon. Goodbye.